Hey guys, we'll go here. Hey, I'm going to talk about this real quick before we jump into the earthquake conversation. This coronal hole is already past Earth. Okay, Earth facing, I should say. Earth sits about right here, just to the south of the equator of the sun. Okay, this is already rotated through Earth, right? So here in about 24 to 48 hours, we're going to be experiencing increased solar wind, because the atmosphere of the sun basically got peeled back right there. And I'm just kind of giving you a little quick whatever explanation on why this happens. The atmosphere kind of peeled back a little bit, and it exposed and allowed energy to come flying off of the sun. Okay, they're charged particles. That's what solar wind is. So anyway, that's coming right at us. Okay, so here in the next 24, 48 hours, our geomagnetism level is going to increase. They're expecting G level 1 storms, maybe higher, as you get closer to the poles. We got a decent chance of getting a G level 1 storm here in mid latitudes. So, I just wanted to bring that up because that's what's causing that. Now, what I want to talk about is this. That coronal hole there and that sunspot right there. Sunspot essentially is just a very active region on the sun. There's certain characteristics it has to have be classified as such. This one here seems to be meeting that criteria and then falling off and then meeting them again. So, they've given it a number, so they're going to stay with that same number, even if it decays and comes back. But just kind of think of it, it's an active area of the sun. We haven't seen one like that in a very long time. Okay, this one's fairly large. It's holding together. It's staying there. It's not popping up and decaying. So why is this even important? Well, because of the timing. Okay, these sunspots can flare at any time. Matter of fact, any part of the sun can. CMEs can happen they don't have to be an active area, but they tend to happen more frequently around sunspots. Okay, so say that sunspot flared right now, it could flare this direction, right? It could flare this direction, any direction at once. Okay, it could flare right at us. So if it flared right now, and if it was going the right direction, right trajectory, it could get us, right? That's why we pay attention to it. But when they do flare, when they do have CMEs, they tend to go more straight out instead of at these big steep angles. Sometimes they do steep angles, but the majority of them are more consistently coming straight off of the sun. Okay, so why am I saying any of that? Well, because these two things are going to be here and here at the exact same time. So why is that important? Well, because when this coronal hole gets over to here, just like this coronal hole did, it's going to send us solar wind. So we're going to have increased solar wind. So if we're having increased solar wind, and this sunspot right here, when it's here, decides it wants to flare or have a CME, while we're already getting increased activity anyway, it could just compound and make things worse. So when these things happen at the same time, I really pay attention. Now, it's not to say that this thing may not do nothing. We just don't know. But yeah, so I wanted to bring that to you guys real quick. And here's the purple version, the 211 angstrom. Obviously, this one always shows more dark stuff because it's looking at a different part of the light spectrum. This tends to show us coronal holes before they actually open up to be full coronal holes. So this is showing that the atmosphere of the sun is actually thinner in those areas. Okay, so even with it thin like that, more charged particles are able to escape. So, might not be necessarily high solar winds, but we're still getting increased energy coming off of that, okay? But the ones that are opened up like this, most definitely send us solar wind, okay? So I wanted to bring that to you. Okay, guys, I know we talk about G-level storms and stuff all the time, okay? But I've never shown you guys this, I don't think, okay? And I needed to do this a long time ago. But this is just telling you what the levels are and what they can do, okay? G1, which is basically what they're expecting this go-round, you can read that for yourself. It's very, very minor stuff, okay? And as we go up, it's just like a thunderstorm warning system. As we go up, it gets worse, right? So we talk about G2, we're talking about some radio propagation problems. In other words, ham radio operators or high frequency radio operators that do the communication that way start having issues. Auroras are starting to get seen closer to the equator. It says right here at 55 degrees geomagnetic latitude. Some voltage alarms. Okay, again, even that moderate really isn't that big of a deal. But when we start talking about G3s, that's when we really got to pay attention. Start paying attention really, really close. Voltage corrections may be required. In other words, they're having to adjust the grid at some level. False alarms may trigger, which would cause small power outages because they would have to go reset them. Intermittent satellite navigation problems. Okay. Let's see here. What's it say here? And low frequency radio navigation problems may occur. And high frequency radio may be intermittent. And auroras get seen even closer to the equator at 50 degrees geomagnetic level. Now here's the big ones. Okay. G4. All right. You guys can read that. That's, stuff starts getting really bad here. Okay. Degraded for hours. Low frequency radio navigation disrupted. Aurora has been seen as low as 45. Okay, then it talks about the grid system, possible widespread voltage control problems. Okay, we're talking about widespread grid issues is what that's saying. Protective systems that kick in during power surges and stuff, or even, like lightning, thunderstorms, those kick off certain things to protect the system. So that might start happening during a G level 4 storm, even though there ain't no big, massive whatever. Okay, so the G5 is where we really, really pay attention. Okay, this is where we're talking about widespread power outages. Transformers may get damaged, blackouts, complete collapse or blackouts in the grid system. Radio propagation, pretty much becomes impossible, at least for 1 or 2 days. Satellite navigation, that's GPS. It gets degraded. Okay, all this stuff is bad. Auroras are seen down in 40 degree or lower latitudes. Okay, pretty close to the equator. Okay, and there are worse than G5. Okay, I'm not sure if they actually have a level or a number assigned to that, but if it gets above that, we've got big issues. And this is why I talk about this, because if we have that coronal hole I just showed you guys, and then that sunspot decides it wants to do what it's doing, it's just going to add stuff and pile on. Not to mention that we're not going to have that much of a recovery phase between these solar wind streams. Okay? Plus, guys, we're 15 to 20% weaker our magnetic field is than what it should be, than what's normal. It's degraded, and they've done multiple studies and stuff on this, and it definitely, the data is definitely showing that geomagnetically we are weaker. That's just what it is. And I've explained multiple times why. When the sun's in a minimum or going to sleep or asleep, we get weaker too. Okay, it's just what happens. I've explained that in detail before. I'm not going to go into that in this video. But I wanted to show you guys that because I haven't shown you guys the G levels and what they can actually do. So when you hear us talk about those specific letters, I hope that helps you guys. So we're going to talk about the earthquakes here. Okay, guys. They've got this officially coming in at a 7.1. All right, this was in Indonesia. We'll go ahead and click on it. I'll show you where it's at on a map. Okay. You guys can do exactly what I just did there. You go to USGS and you can click on all that stuff. And you see the rings. Take note of the location. Okay. Because I'm going to talk about that here in a second. Now, as I zoom out, we're talking about the ring of fire around the Pacific Ocean, right? And it goes, basically the ring of fire. It basically follows the coast here. Okay. In other words, there's increased seismic activity. They call it the ring of fire because volcanoes are there also. This tends to be an active region. Okay, the plates come together there in a lot of different spots. So that's why we talk about that. Because and what I'm going to show you here is, look, this is over here in Indonesia, in between Indonesia and the Philippines. Okay, there was a tsunami issued for this, but they canceled it like I think 2 hours into it. Sometimes they do that just for precautionary, and I think that that's good. It's always good to keep double checking back with that if you're in these areas when this happened. I don't think anybody was injured because this was out in the water. Okay, it was like 33 kilometers deep, which is fairly shallow, guys. Okay, that's really not that deep. Now, there was a bigger deep one earlier this week, and it was like a 6, I think, or right around, or like a 5, high 5, or something like that. Sometimes when we see those, stuff like this happens after. Now, it's been 123 days since our last 7 plus earthquake. I was putting on the bottom of my videos here, and I talked about this before, that, we were getting them roughly every 20 days. Okay, and then now it's been 123 days. That streak is now broke, obviously, but that is an extended period. Okay, I don't want to call it an average of 20 days because that's not really what it was. I was corrected by one of the subscribers, one of you guys, and they were rightfully so corrected me in that. I was thinking it was more of an average, and it really wasn't. What I was saying was we were getting them every 20 days for a certain amount of time. So I just kind of computed that to an average of 20 days. Now, you really can't do that. Because if you take in consideration earthquakes throughout history, it probably wouldn't compute to 20 days. It would probably be longer than that. But it was out of the norm for us not to have any for such a long time. Okay, this is a very extended period of time. This doesn't normally happen. Okay, now, when was the last one? First off, I'm going to tell you guys, I don't think anybody got hurt. I think I might have already said that. I'm not sure if there was any damage or stuff done, but you can see how far out that this thing was felt. It was felt out quite a ways. Okay. Okay, so what I've done, guys, is I reset my settings here on USGS so you guys can see it. Something else, this came in at a 7.1. Other agencies were having it come in higher or lower than that. Initially, this was at a 7.4. USGS does this every time. They knock it down 2 or 3 points. 2 or 3 points. Okay. Now, why is that significant here? Well, because the difference in intensity from a 7 to an 8 is way different than from a 3 to a 4. Okay, an increase from a 3 to a 4, let's just use like a wall, may knock 3 bricks off the wall, right? More than what it would have at just a 3. So the difference is that from a 7 to an 8, it wouldn't just knock off an extra 3 bricks. It would knock the whole wall down probably. That's the difference of intensity, what I'm talking about when we're talking about 0.3. Okay, it's a big deal when it gets up to these higher numbers. It grows exponentially. So that's what I want to point out there. So it is a big deal when we talk about these higher earthquake numbers. The lower ones don't really matter a whole lot, okay? They do matter, but, because it does affect the data as far as how intense stuff is historically. And that's what I think that they do here is they drop it down on purpose so things don't look as bad as what they actually are. I don't know why they do this, and I'm not saying that is actually what they do, but I really do kind of think that that's what happens a lot of times. Do I have any way to prove this? I don't. No, absolutely not. But other than that, every time we see an earthquake, they drop it down some. But they use technical stuff to kind of, explain that away. But people like Dutch Sense and Scott and everybody else out there, they know what they're looking at, and they know that what they report sometimes is not really what it is. So, anyway, the last one we had, guys, was July 14th, and I've told you guys this before in previous videos. Look at the location. Okay? The location was Indonesia again. The last 7 we had was in Indonesia. Okay? I'm going to zoom in over here on the right. Now, the red lines, what you're seeing there, those are fault lines. Okay? They can happen near or away from fault lines at any time. The earth can quake anywhere it wants to. Okay? But they typically tend to hang right on the fault lines or really close. And as you can see, the last 2 sevens that we've had globally are right in the same area. Okay, and then if we even want to go down to the third one, it's down, I think it's that one, yep. Okay, so all 3 of these are virtually in the same area of the globe. Alright, so why is that important? Well, it may not be that important, but I'm just telling you guys that that's what happened. And not to mention that 7.3 was at a 212 kilometers. That was deep. Alright, now these other ones, the closer they are to the surface, the more shaking we feel. Okay, so not to say that deep earthquakes aren't bad, because they can be. They can trigger other stuff. So I just wanted to point that out. Okay, something else I'm going to point out here real quick is, you know, we get this big one right here, right, the 7.1, and then you're always going to see what they would consider, they're actually calling them other earthquakes, but I'm not sure if they actually consider all of them aftershocks. They're definitely related, okay? We were seeing the uptick in 5s and 4s that I mentioned last week, even before last week. We were seeing all this stuff, and again, I've explained to you guys before that space weather has an effect on this. It's not the only, you know, element in the equation, but it's definitely part of the equation. So, you know, we've been getting some kind of strange hits on our magnetosphere that we really shouldn't have been getting. Were they cosmic rays? I don't think so. I do think that some of this stuff we're getting these, because the increase in solar wind isn't there. We only seen a couple different times where the increase, you know, showed what we were actually seeing on the magnetosphere in the wind speed. Okay, in other words, the wind speed stayed low, but yet our magnetosphere was reacting in a pretty big way. That means typically that it's high dense material that's hitting us at that time. But we couldn't really attribute it to a coronal hole. So it had to come from somewhere. Now, was it coming from our object and what it's doing, you know, in relation to the sun's electromagnetic field? Very possible. Some of those could have been cosmic ray spikes. Some of them probably were. But I wanted to show you guys this because Indonesia, all these are going to be Indonesia, and guess what? These things aren't small. These are 5s, 5/8, 4/6. I mean, you guys can see those, right? There's a 6. Okay, up in Fiji. I mean, this affects everything, guys. That's a lot of shaking. Okay, you know, and again, I'm not the best person for earthquake stuff at all. I can just tell you that when we're getting space weather, typically the chances of us having, you know, earthquake events or upticks in intensity or frequency happens when we get solar wind or the space weather in general. Okay, and that's why I report on this, because I think it's important that everybody understands that this comes down to real life. Okay, stuff that's happening out there is affecting us directly right now. We tend to kind of put a barrier there in our minds that, you know, if it's far away, then it's not really affecting us right now. Well, it kind of is. Okay, and that's why we talk about this. It really is. This is why we talk about this subject in particular, because this can affect lives. I mean, if you guys remember the tsunami that happened over there, it killed so many people. It was devastating. Okay, could you imagine how many people's lives could have been saved if we were better at predicting these things? Because they would have ran from the beaches. They wouldn't have been on the beaches. That stuff came out of nowhere. So what I'm saying is, it's important for us to figure in space weather, because it could help us in the future save lives just on this one subject. Okay, mainstream's getting better with this, but they're still not there. They need to start figuring this in every time. And again, I'm not saying that this is what causes them. I'm just saying this is what helps trigger these things sometimes. Sometimes it's the straw that breaks the camel's back. Sometimes it's not. You know, if we magnetically connect to the sun from a coronal hole, that can give us a little jolt. Sometimes we see earthquakes around that. Sometimes we see the phi angle changes. All that kind of stuff definitely comes into this conversation. And we have to take it more serious when we're talking about this, because, frankly, guys, it could save lives. It really can. If we can, not me, because I'm not smart enough for this. The people that do this and can do early warning systems and know so much more about this, I just think that it should be figured into the equation. That's all. But anyway, guys, probably going to go ahead and end it there. Yeah, so we got more coronal holes coming. We're going to get more space weather. We'll definitely keep an eye on these earthquakes, because earthquakes do uptick, guys, during this, and this is proof. So, anyway, guys, I'll try to come back with you tomorrow or the next day with another video. God bless. Stay safe. Pray for those guys over there. If there's anything going on as far as on land somewhere, I think that there probably is some, at least minor stuff, if not moderate to major stuff. But yeah, so God bless. Yeshua saves, and you can drink this Kool-Aid.
Today I'm more confused. I look for the light through the pouring rain. You know that's a game that I hate to lose. I'm feeling the strain. Ain't it a shame? Give me the beat, boys, and free my soul. I wanna get lost in your rock and roll and drift away. Oh yeah. Give me the beat, boys, and free my soul. I wanna get lost in your rock and roll and drift away. Beginning to think I'm wasting time. I don't understand the things I do. The world outside looks so unkind. I'm counting on you to carry me through. Give me the beat, boys, and free my soul. Wanna get lost in your rock and roll and drift away. Oh yeah. Give me the beat, boys, and free my soul. I wanna get lost in your rock and roll and drift away. When my mind is free, you know your melody can move me. When I'm feeling blue, the guitar's coming through to soothe me. Thanks for the joy that you've given me. I want you to know I believe in your song. Rhythm and rhyme and harmony. You help me along, making me strong. Give me the beat, boys, and free my soul. I wanna get lost in your rock and roll and drift see.